Wake up, Atlanta. It's time for coffee. Talk presented by Spotify. Fresh vibes, real talk.
Let's get started, shall we?
Yeah.
Good morning, folks. Welcome back to Coffee Talk in the Morning, presented by Spotify. We hope everyone has had a great weekend. Boy, howdy, don't we have a great show for you. Okay, so here's something to chew on. Rockstar Games, the company behind Grand Theft Auto, just announced that GTA 6 will be download only. Even the so-called physical edition is just a box with a code inside. Is this the moment we officially say goodbye to the game disc?
That's a big question, and honestly, it feels like we're at a turning point. If Rockstar, one of the biggest names in gaming, is making this move, it's hard not to wonder if the disc is on its way out for good. But it's not just about the disc itself, is it? It's about what it represents.
Exactly. For a lot of gamers, this isn't just a technical shift. It's a cultural one. The disc has always been more than just a way to play a game. It's a symbol of ownership, of having something tangible that you can hold in your hands. And now with GTA 6, even the so-called physical edition is just a box with a code. It feels like a slap in the face to some fans.
Right, and I think that's why the reaction has been so strong. You've got people like Ben, the guy who covers GTA News, saying he was genuinely shocked by the announcement. He even pointed out that earlier this year, Take-Two's CEO had said digital-only launch wasn't the plan. So, for fans, this feels like a bit of a bait and switch.
And it's not just about nostalgia. There are practical reasons to want a disc. Ben mentioned that owning a physical copy means you can lend it to a friend or sell it later. With the digital code, you lose that flexibility. Once you redeem it, it's locked to your account forever.
That's a huge shift in how we think about game ownership. With a disc, you own something tangible. With a digital download, you're essentially buying a license to access the game, and that access can be revoked or become obsolete if the servers go down or the platform changes. It's a completely different dynamic.
And that's where the trust issue comes in. Ross Scott, the guy behind the Stop Killing Games movement, made a really compelling point about this. He said the issue isn't just about the lack of a disc, it's about trusts. Gamers don't trust publishers to preserve access to the games they've already paid for. And honestly, can you blame them?
Not at all. The gaming industry has a pretty bad track record when it comes to this. How many times have we seen online games become completely unplayable because their servers were shut down? Even if you have a disc, it doesn't matter if the game requires a server connection to work. But at least with a disc, you feel like you own something.
A digital code in a box, though, that feels like a slap in the face to a lot of gamers. It's like saying, here's your physical product. Oh, wait, just kidding. It's not physical at all. And for a franchise as iconic as GTA, that's a tough pill to swallow.
It's interesting, though, because not everyone feels that way. There are plenty of gamers who've already embraced the digital-only lifestyle, like Hello Girl X, the content creator from Canada who said she downloads most of her games directly to her console anyway. For her, the lack of a disc doesn't change anything.
And that's a valid perspective. Digital sales now account for the vast majority of game revenue, and consoles without disc drives are becoming more common. Matt Piscatella from Circana pointed out that more than half of all Xbox Series consoles in the US don't have a physical drive, and over a quarter of PS5s are the same. So for a lot of people, this shift has already happened.
True, but the question is, what are we losing in the process? For some, it's the experience of owning a physical product. Remember when games used to come with all sorts of goodies, maps, manuals, even little collectibles? That's mostly gone now, and this feels like the final nail in the coffin.
Ben mentioned that too. He talked about how opening a GTA game case was an experience in itself. The map, the manual, it was all part of the game's DNA. He's hoping that Rockstar at least includes something like that with the code in a box version, but it's hard to say if they will.
And then there's the economic angle. Some independent retailers are refusing to stock this version of GTA 6 because they feel like it undermines the value of physical game ownership. VGP in Toronto and Lootbox Gaming in Delaware have both said they won't carry it. And PNP Games in Winnipeg has even started a petition calling for a real physical disc version.
That's a bold move, especially considering how big the GTA franchise is. GTA 5 has sold nearly 230 million copies, and the launch of GTA 6 is expected to be such a major economic event that even Bank of America has weighed in on its price. For retailers to push back against Rockstar like this, it shows how strongly they feel about the issue.
But there's also a practical side to Rockstar's decision. Chris Scullion from Video Games Chronicle suggested that this might be about preventing leaks. If the game isn't on a disc, it's harder for someone to rip it and share it online before the official release. Plus, if the game is still being finalized, a digital launch ensures that players get the most up-to-date version.
That makes sense, but it's also a bit cynical. Some people think this is just a way for Rockstar to make more money. After all, digital copies are cheaper to produce and distribute. No manufacturing, no shipping, no middlemen. It's pure profit.
And that's definitely part of it. And Rockstar isn't the only company moving in this direction. Nintendo has been doing something similar with their game key cards, which are basically physical cartridges that act as a key to download a game. They don't contain the game itself.
It's a trend for sure, but it's also a shift away from some of the traditions that have defined gaming culture. Midnight launches, for example, those were such a big deal for games like GTA. People would line up for hours just to be the first to get their hands on a physical copy. Will stores even bother with midnight launches for a code in a box version?
That's a good question. Ben said he had originally planned to go to a launch event if it happened, but now he'll just settle for a digital version. Still, he hopes that if there are midnight launches, gamers will get more than just a code. Maybe some kind of collectible or bonus item to make the trip worthwhile.
It's a tough balance, isn't it? On one hand, digital distribution is more convenient and arguably more sustainable. On the other hand, it feels like we're losing something intangible, something that made gaming special.
Yeah, and it's not just about nostalgia, it's about the relationship between gamers and publishers and how much trust exists or doesn't exist in that relationship. If publishers want to go all in on digital, they're going to have to do a better job of addressing these concerns. Otherwise, they risk alienating a significant portion of their audience.
So, is the disc dead? Maybe not completely, but it's definitely on life support. And whether that's unacceptable or inevitable probably depends on who you ask.
One thing's for sure, the gaming world is changing, and this is just the beginning. The question is, what kind of future do we want to build? And who gets to decide what that future looks like?
Well said. And with that, let's leave it to the listeners to decide where they stand on this, digital or physical. What's your pick?
Night of Champions. Now, I've been really much hype as it relates to this show, mostly because a lot of people weren't too happy about Clashing Italy. It was just an average show. It didn't bring a lot of inspiration. However, the thing that does work for Night of Champions is the fact that it clearly leads to SummerSlam. Like, the implications of Night of Champions lead into SummerSlam. So in that way, it's clearly an important show. So right now, let's not waste time. Let's get into it. Okay. Jey Uso and Obafemi, the King of the Ring fight. Now, this would have been the last match on my mind for the King of the Ring because just look at it. He's there against the ruler. Well, Jason experienced that. He was up against insurmountable odds. They tried to hype him up and to build this big destroyer. This guy was going to do it. And honestly, 200%. And with you guys, I thought it was going to do it. You know, I thought they're going to do some storyline stuff. Oba has to face struggle. Obviously, Jay's not going to beat him like this, I thought. Look, and then it happened. Now, to be honest with you guys, I like the match more than I expected. It followed a simple and logical story with Jay doing everything he can to knock down the big tree and overcome the insurmountable odds in front of him. He hit 2 splashes, went for all kinds of things, big counters, and even then, Oba was still in it. Best part was when he left in his famous sweeper, but even then, it wasn't enough. The match actually wasn't bad at all, which surprised me a bit because I wasn't really looking forward to it. I didn't really think much about it because I saw the final, the graphic, Jey Uso, Obafemi, like, what the hell is this? I didn't really think much about the potential quality of the match, and while it's not some like sort of amazing match, it was better than I thought. What helped this match's case is that Jay posed a huge threat. He's not supposed to be, but his positioning in this final worked for what the intention was. It's unpredictable. Jay actually had me worried for a bit because I thought the Bloodline War was coming back in overdrive like it was the summer of 2023. It still might, but I really thought they were going to start that off with this wing. Now, Obafemi managed to win the match. He's king of the ring, and only time will tell, but I think he's going to go for the World Heavyweight Championship. Very obvious, logically, I know we could go for the WWE Championship, but I think I'm a logical standpoint. I'm sure we'll have to do a world title after Roman's like, well, I'm here, blah, 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 suit you good maker, or whatever he said. Logical choice. I think they should go all in with him. I don't know, he's over pushed, but we all know you were going to say that if he got pushed a year later. So it's time to do it. I just feel like a talent such as Old Buck comes around rarely. They often have a huge shortcoming with he doesn't have that. Liv Morgan and Io Sky and the Queen of the Ring title. Now, it's clear as David's WWE opted to spend time for Liv Morgan's title reign to do this. Why? Probably going to want to do the proper opponent. They want to do those nonsense title reigns where it's like, I'm a champion for 4 months with only one title defense, because that's what it literally is. I have more to say about her title reign, my man, in this video, another video. Liv Morgan, she was cursed like Danhausen, but no soda. Silly stuff, especially for the top tier women's division. It's like, I know Danhausen kind of cursed the Spurs, he cursed the Niz, but I don't think they really need to do it for this storyline. Now, these two have had good matches in the past, but this is a final, so of course that should be the minimum. This match was a slow at all. It was very back and forth with both women taking significant damage, and I want to say there was a full-on moment where Liv took control, because whenever you think that's the case, Sky hits a drop kick from the second rope or something. Liv's biggest moment came when she locked in the crap. There's a smart trick where Liv opted to go for the code breaker as opposed to Oblivion, and Io's knee from the Boston Crab eventually became her biggest weakness. At least that's what I thought, because from out of nowhere, Io beat her with the over the moonsault. I thought there was a little more to this match before that. Maybe they're gonna go into this 5th or 6th gear, but it wasn't that. Seeing Io beat Liv exactly like this kind of shocking a day. He said match, nothing notable, and I definitely won't remember anything about it next week. Like, well, it didn't try to bring a distinction to other matches. And that's the issue with it. It's like, it's a fine match, but I want to say it's a King of the Ring final. That said, this is obviously going to lead to Judgment Day drama, but for Io Sky, a potential title reign is on the cards, which would be pretty big for her. And judging by the results of here, you would obviously think, oh, she's going to lose at SummerSlam. I give her more than a chance, seeing as Liv Morgan's cursed. It's just things look worse because Liv is a champion and are going to use a Danhausen cartoon curse to tell this story. Okay, Seth Rollins faces Braun Breaker in a steel cage match. The finale, as WWE claims, but who knows? Now I've had vision fatigue for some time. The group is cursed no matter what at this point, and for the most part, they're all better off as individuals. But even then, Braun and Seth's matches have been good, so I'll give it a chance. And that's what I thought. One thing I'll give them is the intensity. I saw and felt the hatred between these two throughout this match. One moment Seth is all over Braun with experience and all the anger driving him forward, but then Braun's youth comes to the rescue for him and he just unleashes his anger on Rollins. They're chanting all lay while Breaker's doing some dark stuff in the ring and talking about being ready to kill Rollins. Breaker was bloody, and while the cage match in WWE was too soft, I still like this match. You can tell they were trying to convey the story of the hate, and in Braun Breaker's case, his desperation to prove that he's one of the guys. A huge sequence with Breaker going through a table, taking a pedigree, and then the stomp, and even then he kicked out. It was stunning how super convinced that it was over and ready to hear that his career and push is over. He recovers, but even then he looks defeated, so Rollins hits the stomp from the top rope, and that's it. One of the better steel cage matches I've seen in the WWE recently. I think that this was a proper traditional steel cage. It was a bit soft, obviously, but it served as the finale of the feud it showed here. Braun Breaker ready to kill and take Rollins' spot. Rollins doing his best to use his experience and intelligence to steer him to victory. And I don't know what to make of Braun Breaker from here on. It's clearly not the same as it was in January, but that's the cold side of this industry. It's not that he's doing bad, but if he never got injured, he would most likely be world champion right now. And I can't really tell you where they go from here. Maybe he does turn face and break free from the Vision. Maybe that would serve him well, who knows, but he was going to be the world champion a couple of months ago. And now, it doesn't seem like he's going to touch that title for quite some time. Trick Williams defends the United States Championship against Ricky Saints. Now, I'm going to know I was watching SmackDown here. This sounds like the most SmackDown match ever, but these two worked super hard. Saints was very smart during this battle and put Rick in some very uncomfortable positions. I didn't really care much for it, but it was clear what they were going for here. They're like, what do you mean by that? Well, when they explained, Ricky's ego and confidence was through the charts, and it showed with this match. It was very smart, very intelligent, putting Trick in some very uncomfortable scenarios, forcing him to fight back from under. Trick still had some ways to go in ring before the inevitable push. I just want to mention that here because Us match was, just there and all that. We could see some of the shortcomings, but he'll probably iron them out in due time. This ended up being a match that ended right before it kicked into high gear. Trick, of course, retains, and last thing they're going to do is give Ricky the title. I know I will. Then on top of it, he got dropped by Lil Yachty. He got dropped by the guy who's Drake's jackstrapped. But that's the life if you're not him paying eventer, so it is what it is. Tiffany Strang defends the WWE Women's United States Championship against Jade Cargill. It's funny to think that this was a World Championship match 8 months ago. However, it's good for the title though because the last champions didn't really have much credibility or top card relevancy. And if you're like, it's a mid-card title, yeah, but the mid-carders they push leads to nobody caring a lot the title, or in Chelsea Green's case, it's kind of a comedy show. But this was off to a quick start. Jade and Strand were moving super fast, Tiffy had the speed, Cargo had the power, and it was clear that this was going to get a 10-minute sprint. This match is moving super fast, and it looks like the champion's tooth was chipped at one point. The match had work rate, some back and forth, but the fans weren't loud or interested. There was an awkward crucifix pin, but nonetheless they moved back. Jade's girls interfered, Chelsea Green once again saves Tiffany Strand, and even Charlotte showed up to cause Jade the title. I was a bit into this match, yes and yes. I was a bit into it. If you're like, why? It was moving pretty fast, a little bit back and forth, this and that, and I thought it was better than the other Jade and Tiffany matches. But then it turned to some SmackDown nonsense you see at 9:58 p.m. It doesn't seem like the crowd cared though, and obviously that's going to put a damper on things. And then there's the interference, but that's for its own story. Obviously Charlotte and Jade, so there's that. And the main event, Cody Rhodes defends the WWE Championship against Sami Zayn and Gunther. A triple threat that comes after Sami Zayn got thrown into the mix between Gunther and Cody. He's been bitter and weird recently, plenty of anger over never holding the World Championship, whereas Gunther is clearly upset over having somebody else jumping into his drama. It was a good build. He saw a lot of emotion and contempt from all three men. Now that said, the match was moving fast, which is natural, three men in there. Cody had a side effect like he was Matt Hardy, and as the wrestling, I felt like they were on limited time. You wouldn't think the match started minutes ago after seeing the powerbomb from Gunther, and I was proud to see a good match between these three. There was only some sort of drama involving them, but the drama is within the match now, which is great. Drama like Sammy pulling the ref after a crossroads, noticed this incredibly fast sunset flip counter from the powerbomb by Zayn, which was legitimately impressive. You'll never see Gunther move that fast. Then Cody pulled the ref out, ruining Zayn's opportunity. All of this was happening for the most coveted press. A huge spot with Zayn taking a back body drop through the announce table. Gunther tried capitalizing on this, and for a moment he looked like that big destroyer they tried portraying them as. He had Cody, but Zayn once again got involved. Corey Graves called him a cockroach earlier on. I'm just mentioning that because, you know, he was always capitalizing and he always comes back for more. Huge moment was Zayn hitting the haluva kick, and it was insane. I thought he had it. It was there in his hands, but then Gunther kicked out. It's like, wow. Great near fall, wonderful stuff. Then Rhodes became Super Cena and hit a double crossroads, and I'm like, the timeline is about to burn, but then Sandy catches him with this miraculous roll-up. 1, 2, 3, new champion. It was unbelievable. Sami Zayn, the new WWE champion. It sounds and looks fake. Like, look at this image. Does this look real to you? It's hilarious. Sami Zayn, WWE champion. Insanity. Now he's going to be even more annoying and entitled in storyline, of course. All of this was missing Kevin Owens, though. But the match was great. It really worked out little because you couldn't guess as time went on. I thought Sammy was a little too happy during his entrance, but that's just reading into something that's not really there. You guys know how people are like, I sense this guy's happy, and it turns out the guy isn't upset at all. But the work leading up to it was truly thrilling. I couldn't say with certainty that Cody would retain. If anything, I had out Gunther, but this is huge. And I don't know if I said this before, but if I was a wrestler, I'd always want the WWE Championship as opposed to the World title or the Universal title. No matter how many main events the World title gets, I don't care. Why? Because the lineage of the WWE Championship is all I need to mention for you to understand.
This clip has been going around and making the rounds again. It is from 2018, but this is paired with some breaking news that came out of some interviews that Deborah Ann Woll, who is the original or the actress for Faye, she did this interview talking about the process, and what she basically said was, quote, "Oh my God, I can't tell you, I still pinch myself. You know, again, I've known about this for nearly 10 years, this game, K.L.P, and have been able to talk about it. He pitched it, he being Cory Barlog, he pitched it in Tubi in 2018. They had known about it before then. It's wild. Like when Cory brought me in to talk about doing Ragnarok and show me the 2018 game, he had already had a poster for the K.L.P game with me and the cube. A cube that's been there since the beginning. It's deeply part of the lore. It's apparently like pretty integral. And this is something I've been telling you guys, like I've heard rumblings and I've seen the interview clips and everything. It doesn't take a genius to put these things together, but this like most of God of War K.L.P was written out and built out when they did 2018. Like most of this has been in the works like for a decade. Which is crazy to think, but that's what we're dealing with. This is a clip from 2018. Some more. Obviously, you're saying you have this sort of a forward of what comes next. You have that, or what that image means in mind. Did you have everything before the game of like how long this is after the last God of War really received, and like how long is this after? So, asking God of War 2018, how long is this since the last one? Like what happened between, right? Lost again. If cool, we've been 3 specific throughout falls available to God of War to not commit to a date. or any time periods. For me, I wanted an expanse of time from 3 to explore the rock bottom of Kratos, right? So that what happened before this is a really cool story, something that I've sort of laid the beats out of for, but something we're not really talking about, sure, so that when you kind of see that story as it folds into him arriving in Scandinavia and meeting, saying all that is a really awesome. But for me, audience, why didn't you tell that story, Miss? I chronologically, it fits beforehand, but it is way more interesting to look back on that when you find out her power control. If you find out who she is and you find all the information, she being right, like first, this story doesn't work as well, right? This reveal and this sort of bonding between these two characters. But now, looking back on how he got there, that to me is far more interesting because now you feel like you totally understand everything she does. That could be amazing. Like anybody, this is how you can tell like the people that actually like follow this and people that don't. Okay, there are people that are trying to say that all of this, because if somehow you're not aware, Corey is in charge of, I think he's like head of creative at Santa Monica Studio. It's a title like that. Like big picture, broad stuff, right? He's not the game director on God of War Laufey. He wasn't the game director on Ragnarok. He game directed 2018, and then he was creative director on Ragnarok. And so there's people that were like, oh, it's a new team, a new development team, new director team that are responsible for Laufey. That's why these things are happening, and blah, blah, blah. They're going off on it. But it's like, no, you don't get to do that because it's very clear. These things were set up a decade ago, and they were set up by the guy, okay? The man. So if you're going to try to frame the narrative as like Corey is the guy and the things Corey's doing are great, but then also you don't like Laufey, it's like, well, you can't really separate the two. I mean, they seem like pretty clearly they were developed and built around the same time. Like all of these pieces were laid out. And I will just say this again, there are many things that were thought to be like plot holes or unresolved issues or this and that or this and that, and they will be answered in Laufey. Like all of these things, people point to like Hubu Gahorn and stuff like that, but there's many things in the game that and in 2018 and in Ragnarok, where you might have questions or that might be like, I wonder how that works, where those things are going to intertwine again, where this thread is going to come back in here. It's going to, I think, blow some minds. There's going to be a lot of things like that where it's just like, whoa. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of those moments, and I'm excited to see them. It's going to be very, very cool. But that's one aspect of it. There still can be other pieces, and I want to be fair about this. People bringing up, for example, concerns over dialogue with like between the talking sword and the cube, Frank. Like concerns over that. Companion dialogue in so many first-party games has been a frustration of mine as well. Totally agree. There's a way to do it where it's not super annoying, and then there's times where it can be super annoying. And some games, it's occasionally annoying, but for the vast majority of the time, it's fine, or even builds and adds to the experience. Other times, it goes too far, and it's super annoying. It just depends. Like, there's a spectrum, as it were, of these things. Like in God of War Ragnarok, even. I love Ragnarok. It's phenomenal. But even then, there's the memes that have been developed over, like, Atreus solving puzzles for people because he never shuts up. They later patched that and changed it because it was, like, such a problem. So, there's times where, like, you don't... In that case, it was at occasional moments where it was really, really annoying, but they fixed it and addressed it. So I'd like to think that they learned those lessons and tweet it here too. That you're like, yeah, game at school, yeah, that's cool, but I'm worried that the talking sword is going to get annoying or the talking cube is going to get annoying. I think that's a valid concern to have. That's totally fine. I'm not saying there's any problem with that. That's totally, I mean, that's a fair frustration. Do I think therefore because you're like, I want to see more of the cube and see if it's going to be annoying. Like, I don't think you can or go from there and then conclude, so the game is garbage. I think that's silly, certainly. But, you're allowed to have concerns or things that you like or don't like in a trailer, and that doesn't mean that you're a tourist. That doesn't mean that you're like a bad person or a fake gamer. I've seen some people trying to dismiss any sort of concern with any game as though that's totally unfair and unreasonable. And that's also equally silly as dismissing something out of hand when we barely know anything about it. But I think that broad strokes, the important bits are that God of War K.L.P clearly has been designed and built as part of the trilogy. It's part of God of War 2018 going into Ragnarok, and it's going to be the game that ties all of this stuff together in a nice clean bow. And it was something that was ideated a decade ago, laid out a decade ago, and was developed with those games in tandem and in parallel, even at times at least narratively. And so I'm very excited to see when it comes and to see how it ties together. I'm very giddy and excited, and yeah, I'm still, hesitating with many things where it's like I want to know about, the dialogue, how they balance those things out, because certainly a great game can be ruined by some really cringy dialogue very, very quickly. But I haven't seen anything that I'm like particularly perturbed by or anything. But I do think it's really exciting to see just how many of these pieces seem to have been laid out, how many of these breadcrumbs were laid out in advance, and how we're going to come back and go full circle with them.
Don't freak out. Take a deep breath. What you watched last night with the United States men's national team, let me put it in domestic football terms. We had clinched the playoff spot. We clinched the playoff spot. It's week 17. We played backups and lost on a field goal on the last play of the game. That's what happened. It's not about going unblemished. Argentina won the last World Cup. They lost. It's about winning your group stage, staying healthy, and preparing at your best with momentum for the knockout stage. Don't get clouded on this. 8 goals in 3 games. Türkiye this morning is 3rd in this entire tournament in expected goals. They've underachieved. They were supposed to be the one team in this group that we'd have some trouble with. We put our B team out last night, and they scored on the last kick to beat us. We're 100% healthy, 8 goals in 3 games. Pulisic's ready to go, and our reserves played with intensity, passion, purpose. We scored a couple of half minutes into the game. I love what I saw. The issue is our starters on the back end of our defense are thin. What do you think our reserves are like? Which is not good in terms of attacking players, playmakers, goal scorers, skill, midfield. We have all sorts of depth. I love what I saw last night. We won possession, more shots on target. I love what I saw. We are really thin on the back end and play backups. Again, in football terms, in America, our secondary is our weakness, and we played our reserves in week 17 as we had already clinched a playoff spot. What do you think our reserves in the back end look like? Just not our strength. We're thin back there, but our reserves needed to play. We needed backups, 10 of them, an opportunity. We didn't have a single player. Pulisic came in second half. Resta McKinney almost played the entire match, but didn't. This was about reserves. I love what I saw. I'd go get clouded. 8 goals, 3 games played. Most goals ever for us at this point in the World Cup. So I thought last night was an A success. It's A+ if we win. It's A for the effort, the intensity, the reserve, the shots on goal, the possession. Again, this is not about going unblemished. If Indiana had won the national championship last year in football and had lost week 8, who cares? But nobody cares. It is about Argentina, last World Cup, had a blemish most of the time. Your World Cup champion can breeze through the group stage, and they will arrest in similar situations their top players, especially at the yellow card. So Mauricio Pochettino he got to the podium last night, and he's like, guys, chill out. We're going to the knockout stage. We are healthy. We are deep. Listen, again, Argentina lost their opening game in the last World Cup to Saudi Arabia and went on to win. The Miami Dolphins, only NFL team that went undefeated. They're not one of the best teams in the history of the NFL. They have an unblemished record. That's not the point. I love what I saw. I was very excited. The fact that Türkiye has really underachieved, the game meant a ton to them. They're getting crushed by their national media in their country. They're getting crushed. Coach is going to get fired. They came in with their A team. And again, this is a team that's created all sorts of scoring opportunities. We jump out to the lead, and we're playing reserves on the back end. Of course, can score us. And I watch us, and I watch our scoring opportunities through 3 games of the group stage. I mean, we are getting great shot. Last night, we could have had 3 more goals. Pulisic came in, immediate offense, immediate opportunities. I don't know how you look at last night in the group stage, and you're not overjoyed with our depth at midfield, our depth of skill, our depth of attacking players. Overjoyed. I mean, when Pulisic came in, we had 2 or 3 great opportunities. And, you know, hockey and soccer, you hit the bar, you get close, doesn't count. I love what I saw. It's always nice. And sometimes it takes a while to prove it, like 20 years. I have pushback to American soccer fans for years. Any loss, any failing, it's always the coach. Fire Bruce Arena. Fire Jurgen Klinsmann. Fire Bob Bradley. Fire Greg Berhalter. I am always like, why do all these coaches counterattack? Because we can't attack. We don't have the personnel. That's not to say coaches don't have bad games, bad halves, tactical mistakes, but it's always been all the coach. And the reason for that is it's easier to blame the coach than acknowledge our players aren't good enough. Last night's a great example. We played our reserves, and then we finally lost. It wasn't because of tactical blunders by Pochettino, poor substitutions, galling missteps, because they played less talented players. Now, I think it's very encouraging that our midfielders and attacking players, our reserves, are full of fight and talent. But all coaches had limitations. Bill Belichick was the GOAT for 20 years. Without Brady, he's a disaster, college or pro. So, last night, my 20-year argument proven. Same coach, same schemes. Oh, we lost, though, to a team that's been arguably, or maybe inarguably, the biggest disappointment in the World Cup. Why would that be? Coaches need talent. When we played Paraguay and Australia, we led for 182 of the 198 minutes, dominated possession, jumped out to fast leads. Goal, 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 goal. Last night we had 1, and we fell behind. And then we gave up a losing goal on the last kick of the game. That's what reserves do. That's why they're reserves. So one of the reasons I'm so positive about this team is not just last night, but you can just see the talent. Our top 7 players, maybe 8, are all in their prime or moving right into it. That's what it looks like the Seahawks last year. The Niners were old. I mean, the Niners don't have a single elite player like in their athletic prime. You'll see this. Like Croatia's talented. Boy, they're getting old. Right? You see it at the World Cup. You see it in the NFL. Patriots last year, good. But most of their players are not quite in their prime. They're very young in T spots like the O-line. So for us, it's like we had all our best players playing in Europe and they're all in their prime. And the fact that our backups are this good, it's really encouraging. But it wasn't coaching blunders last night. Less counted players make more mistakes, have lower ceilings, and that's what you saw last month.
We bring in good energy.
This has been Coffee Talk, presented by Spotify. From our cast, we thank you for listening.
Yeah.